Hey guys, welcome back to Tamiya Legends, and once again, thank you for stopping by. Well guys, I've got an absolute treat for you today. So this video's been done for me by my friend Bradley in Australia. Now, Bradley runs the Tamiya Vintage Australia Facebook group. I'll put a link to that fantastic group in this video description. Yeah, this is going to blow your socks off. As the thumbnail set, I've called it, it's the ultimate, or it is one of the ultimate RC collections. And it's so mixed and varied, and it's just, as you'll hear Bradley speaking about it, he really does love this hobby, and he really does know his stuff, and you know, he races as well. So get your popcorn, get yourself in a comfy chair, and enjoy.
Good day guys, it's Bradley here from Tamiya Vintage Australia. Just thought I'd give you a bit of a walk around of my man cave, if you like. Oh, here's my resident security guard. Keeps the place nice and safe on lockdown for me. Anyway, there you go. Here's all my cars. If you want, I'll start running you through them one by one. Oh, well, I'm a massive Formula 1 fan. I love watching it on the telly. So these are the cars I started collecting. Got your Road Wizards here. If you notice, the original one should actually have these little winglets on them. I've always loved them. Super scale, super hard to drive, but that's what makes them so rewarding. I've got a Daniel Ricciardo one that I've made. That's a TRF 102. It was their top of the range, all carbon fibre and alloy bits, and put like a little visor on him. Try and get him scale. That was I think that might have been an F201 there. And over here, your classics, your Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna, Jacques Villeneuve. They're both F102s, and that's possibly an F103. And you have the Williams here, and this Ferrari. These are the four-wheel drive Formula 1s that came out, the F201. Sensational cars to drive. You get a bit of horsepower in them with a low turn motor. These things are ballistic, and they're actually quite good to drive, being four-wheel drive. And super scale inside. If you've ever had a chance to look at one, they have all inbuilt shocks, so it's very scaled to the real thing. That might be a Prost, and that's the F104, the later version of them. And I also have a very tricked out chassis kit here. It was a Formula 1 Tamiya, but all the components on it are a company called Exotech. Made it aftermarket. And I tell you what, if you've ever driven one of these things, you'll know all about throttle control. Great cars to drive. Next in my cars would be my sort of Group C, Le Mans, sort of prototype GT wide body cars, I suppose you would call them. I've always been fascinated with them. Just love the body styling of them. They've always looked super scale. So here we go, here's my Porsche and the Mazda, and this is the original Kosho with the chain drive. I think this one has been re-released now. I think it's the Phantom, I think they call it. Out the box thinking, sensational car. And if you've ever had a chance to drive these things on carpet, you'll know they're just ballistic little missiles, super quick. And some of these cars, and look, to be honest, I've got a fair new in the box build cars as shelf queens, but I also like them like this. It's never been restored, it's a little bit rough, but it's like a classic time warp straight out of 1980. And then you've got other cars like this one, the Supra. And look, I'm quite happy just to go and get some MCI decals, maybe a TBG body, chuck on a set of rims, and just freshen them back up. Usually a full strip clean rebuild and just detail them. Like that's a brand new rebuild. But in this one, it was just how I found it, and I thought it was just great. Looked exactly how it was, how it would have been used back in the day. Had this Tyrrell. This thing's just crazy. I've never actually driven it, but it just looks cool. And I'm right into the whole engineering thing, a lot of these cars, my collection. Your Castrol rally cars. Such awesome looking little paint jobs on them. A Nissan Group C car. This is another one. See, I've never touched it. I just left it how the previous owner did it. Oops. Then over here, that was like a custom sort of Le Mans 24-hour prototype thing I did. I just did it like in the Ferrari sort of paint scheme. The Toyota, that was on Gran Turismo if you've ever played it. Your classic Jag. I mean, that thing just looks like it's doing 200 miles an hour just sitting there. And then you got this sort of prototype looking thing. All great cars. These are my touring car collection. Most of them are sort of JDM. I really like the Japanese sort of turbo cars that came out years ago. A little bit brainwashed maybe watching the Fast and Furious movies, and I can't say I actually like the movies, but I love the cars. This body shell here, this holds a special place in my heart. I raced in, it was a Australian Drift Championship. It must have been 4 or 5 years ago now. Anyway, I came third in Australia, so I always kept the body shell. It's just on some crappy old chassis thing, but I just kept the shell for sentimental value. Then you've got my Skylines. I mean, I just love the things. I think they've always looked fantastic. You know, mainly from the real world with the twin turbo 4-wheel drive, and same Japanese. HKS, I mean, the king of Japanese tuning parts. And then here's my Godzilla. Was king of the Australian touring cars there for a couple of years. I think it could be touched, so I had to make a replica of that. Got all custom decals made up, did custom paint, put some discs on it. Driver always try and make them look good. Then I've got this section over here. These are kind of like my prize buggies that I've really loved. So we'll start off here. I've got 2 PB Mini Mustangs. These things, out of control. Back in the probably late 80s here in Perth at the Bayswater track where we used to race. They came with a 2-speed gearbox in them. It was actually like a spur, 2 spur gears joined together with a centrifugal clutch in it, so you could have like a fast takeoff gear, and then the centrifugal clutch would kick in the second spur, so you'd have an outstanding top end. Absolutely murdered everything down the straightaways. Probably weren't the best handling car, but damn, they were fast back in the day. And funny enough, just getting sidetracked there, I've got the Shoemaker Cats, an original one from the UK. I think the instruction manuals even say to use just lacquey bands to hold the front end together. It's got the chrome wheels, but the guy that made that had this guy working for him, and I believe the story is they had a bit of a tiff about the final design concept of the car, so he left the Shoemaker Cat project and went on to make the PB Mustang, Mini Mustang. Next up here we have a RC10 Gold Pan. It's an A-stamp car, so it's one of the very original ones that first left the factory in America. There's a must-have for any collection. And then recently I picked up its sister car, which would be the graphite chassis version of it. It's essentially the same car, it's just I think the arms are a little bit wider and various suspension mounts might have changed over the years, but I'll tell you what, these things here, they set a standard for a good 10 years where they just couldn't be touched on track, and I think every manufacturer wished they had a car that was as good as that. And that's just my opinion, but I think they definitely set a standard on how a car should be set up if you wanted to race it competitively. And then here I have a Yokomo 870C, or YZ10 as some people might call it. Another great design jump there in technology. It was the sort of belt drive with ball diffs, and had a center one-way diff in it, which you could adjust for how much power went to your front or back wheels, or the braking characteristics of the car. I painted it in the World Championship Masumi colours, because I think he won it, might have been about 85 or something there, and got me to my old race numbers, of course, got to have them. Then here, your Wild Willie. Well, I mean, come on guys, you got to love these, you got to have one. This is actually the long wheelbase version, as you can see by that little section in there. And this car, I had all plans of restoring it back to, I suppose, factory paint. But after the more I had it, the more I started to love it, because I noticed the previous owner had painted it with this like splash on type mud. He must have mixed it with glue and put it all over the car, and I just thought, you know what, he's done a good job, I'm just going to leave it. It just looks super cool. It's in bloody good nick too. I was lucky to get that. Then here you go, here's my Makosho cars. We can start here. It's the Optima. This is the first car I ever raced back in maybe 84, 85. Santa Claus got it for me for one Christmas. And this is the original chassis from back then. Admittedly, I put a new body shell on it and a new set of rubber. But it's the standard chassis, old mechanical speed controller in there, everything. A Javelin. I swapped this off a mate for a couple of cars, and then the eagle-eyed people out there, maybe Glenn might noticed, it's actually an Optima Pro underneath with a Javelin roll cage on it. So one day, I've got the body shell, now I just need to find another Optima to turn it back into a Javelin. So yeah, it's a couple of cars in one there. It was a good little score. Then they went to the mid platform. Far superior. These things were winning everywhere back in the day. They were a great car. Then up here you've got the, I think it's the RZRR model, which was their, I think it might have been the top of the range one, laser, a bit later on. Had the gold shocks and same mid drive, and that also had like a weird slipper clutch thing in the back end there, like a one-way, but it directed all the power to the front wheels, where normally it's the other way around. Really weird. Then here you have the Losi. It's a BK2. RIP Brian Kindrold. As you can see, these cars are graphite. Got a graphite tub, graphite arms, towers, everything. The reason I got them is because I just always remember as a kid growing up, looking at him in magazines, selling his motors and parts and batteries, and you know, this is well before the internet. I used to see him on every page, and he was a young kid at the time, just like me. So a friend of mine had these two cars. I managed to get off him and restore them back to their former glory, so I've kept them. And I like the paint job, and that's the same one as well, graphite everything on them. Okay, here we have Tamiya's Ugly Ducklings. That have your striker and the Sonic Fighter. You got to have them as a pair, I think. And now the reason they're hidden down the bottom is because I'm not really sure if they ever belonged on the Formula 1 shelf or on the buggy shelf, so they kind of just live down here and hide from the rest of the buggies because they feel humiliated. Drag racing. Big thing over here in Perth at the moment. Everyone seems to be a bit of a trend, so I brought this chassis from the US. It's a RJ Speed and put a 4.5 motor in it. The thing's an absolute bullet in the car park for straight line drag racing. Sensational fun, but that's about all it's good for. Other than that, it's bloody useless, but great fun just to have your speed fix. And then here are my Kosho hang-on riders. The actual rider leans off the bike with his knee on the ground. So got to have your Mick Doohan, Wayne Gardner. You've got a Kevin Swantz there and another Mick Doohan and a couple of the RGVs, Wayne Rainey. So I think there's even an Overfox hidden down there. It's just a junk box of projects that I'd like to get into one day. Got a TA01 and A2s and a Formula 1 and TTs, and they're just little projects. A lot of these cars that are really ratty, I'll just sort of fix them up the best I can to mount bodies for display purposes. Then here you go here. This is the Hot Shot family cars. Well, the Hot Shot series gearbox family cars, I suppose you could call them. So we'll start here. This is an original one. Unfortunately, it has got a re body on it, but I've got a set of stickers I'll get around to one day putting on it. Here's the infamous gold car. I think that was to celebrate 30 years of the Hot Shot. A few people know the story, but if you don't, basically I was doing my shopping one day, food shopping, go past a jewellery store, and there's this thing is hidden in between a bunch of watches and gold rings. I'm like, huh, that's just not right. So I went in and asked the owner of the shop, said, what's the go with this car in there, mate? And he reckons his wife brought it because it looked good to match the other displays. So we had a bit of a laugh and talked some numbers and got it brand spanking new, never been used, mint condition. I think, yeah, bit of a special box. My second good score was at a swap meet. I came across this one, and I didn't, I was looking around and saying it, asked the guy, what's the go on this one, mate? He said, $20. I nearly fell over and had a heart attack. I couldn't have got the money into his hand any quicker. I suppose you've got to take them while you can as well. Got your super shot, your boomerang, then your big wig. Oh, you can love them, you can hate them, but to me that was sort of the pinnacle of where the Hot Shot gearbox sort of cars had finally arrived at in a day, so you got to have it in with the collection with the rest of the family. Here's some of the Tamiya, probably more earlier buggies. You got your Wild One, your Grasshopper. I mean, come on, who didn't want one of them when they were a kid? Great fun bouncing them up and down the front lawn and up the driveway. Nice Frog. I believe this is a Mark 1. It's got a super skinny bumper on them. Then you got your Hornet. I mean, that's just claret. They look so tough, them cars, I always thought. I think everyone had one of them when they grew up. Top Force, of course. And the original Avanti. You can tell it's an original one because it's got the cast sort of pieces inside the rim there, and it looks same again. This one has got a re sticker kit on it. It's killing me looking at them, so I've got to get them changed over to the Space Tech, I think it is, ones. And these are just all the old radios that came with the cars, AM, FMs there, and I also got a bunch of parts that, some motors there. I even got this thing here that changes it if you had a Hot Shot, to change it to a Super Shot suspension set. Some old brush motor checkers there, a couple old chargers and some humpback batteries, heap of old motors. All this just came in kits that I brought over the years and kept them for memorabilia, and really have, God knows if any of it even works, I don't really care, but I just like looking at the stuff. Okay, here's just some of the boxes all the cars came in. So I keep a lot of the parts trees in there and maybe the manuals. Never throw that sort of stuff out. A couple of spare shells up there. I have this little section over here. It was just kind of some body boxes that I like. Made a bit of a thing, and kind of made a bit of a thing with some of the trophies that I'd won over the years when I was racing. I used to race pretty competitive back in the sort of early mid 80s, and then I just gave up on it all, and married, kids, all that stuff, and then I got back into it about 10 years ago. Fast and Furious. Got a thing for the whole Paul Walker thing. Japanese cars, and I just sort of, if I ever see good ones at the shops, Kmart's or whatever, I'll pick them up, like some of these Back to Future cars. Another bike. Bunch of old model kits there. One day I'll get around to building them. Got my son's truck here that he uses, a Tamiya truck thing. Things are great fun for racing. Keep them stock. Maybe throw some bearings in them. It's got a couple of nice little Traxxas cars. Did this Fast and Furious Honda Civic thing on a front wheel drive chassis with a crazy motor in it, just for some giggles. And here's my two Maruri cars. I nearly forgot all about them. Bit weird how they started off in RC, and I'm pretty sure these days they're making handguns. Strange, but we'll go with it. The Ninja, absolutely stunning. This one does have the TBG body and MCI decals, but the rest of the car was mint when I picked it up. Just the usual strip clean rebuild detail. Probably the sexiest looking RC car ever made for some reason. I mean, that's my opinion. I just like it. I'm pretty sure the gearboxes are made of cheese, so it looks good sitting on the shelf anyway. Next to that, your Samurai. And I've worked out why they call it a Samurai. The chain drive on it just hangs down there, ready to cut your fingers off at a moment's notice as soon as you get anywhere near the thing. Other than that bit aside, you can see how they really copied the trend of the times. They've got the chain drive like an Optima, monoshock like a Hotshot, space frame, funny enough, a bit like the Frog. So they copied a lot of design elements from other cars, and that's why I've kind of always liked it. And they were actually fairly fast. I remember one back when I was racing when I was a kid, and the guy had one, super quick. And they just look cool. Got to have them in your collection. Okay, then over this section is pretty much my workstation. It's got like a little setup board, and there's my current Formula 1 car that I've been running at the local track. Some more tools and my brushes. Tamiya set, of course. Magnetic pit board, must have if you need you, so you don't lose anything. I've got these super expensive Aromax tools. Probably cost me as much as what a car costs, but geez, they look gorgeous. A charger. Got to have your LiPo bag so you don't burn down the house. Controllers there. Over here I just have some of my cleaning stuff, WD-40s and other silicone sprays, grease and oils, Loctite of course. My paints. This is just getting out of control. I'm always doing body shells, and I found it just looks cool, all organised like that. Just various little spare parts in tubs. Been really trying to do that lately, keep track of stuff so you don't lose it. If you ever think about stuff, you know exactly where to find it. So I've been doing things like this lately, just putting them into tubs, trying to organise it. Things like that. Just put all my stickers, manuals, things like that in there. You put all your electronics in one section. Spare electronics, more stickers if you need them. All your masks for masking up. I mean, it's just a full-time gig there. Shock oils and parts for your Dremel. Just really helps organise stuff. Just so you're not wasting time and pulling half your room apart, scratching your head on what the hell that one little part is you can't find. So there you go guys, that's pretty much all it. If you see anything that you like in there, please leave a comment down below, and if you like I can chuck it up on the workbench and do a little feature vid on that particular car if you want to find out some more specs on it. Anyway, thanks for stopping in guys, take it easy.
Well, wow, what did you think to that? Stick it in the comments what you thought, what was your favourite cars. There's too many for me. There's all the Tamiyas, but the PBs, some of those Kyoshos, the Cat, there were just so many, weren't there? And that YZ, the Yokomo, with that Masami paint job, spectacular. What a man cave that is, Bradley. So a massive thank you to you. Thanks so much for doing that, because I know the people who watch my stuff really enjoy the collection videos, as do I. So again, I'll put a link to Bradley's Facebook group in this video description and go check him out. So once again, my friends, thanks so much for watching. It's massively appreciated. If this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, if you could please consider giving this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and if you do that, smash that notification bell for our weekly videos. And as always my friends, I'm going to go with a double thumbs up. Happy RCing.